What if you had the power to kill anyone, anywhere, and any way you'd want? And what if this power came from a single notebook? This is the Death Note, an object of death, and today we're going to look at ways that it's used in the stories and other ways that objects similar to this can be used in others. So let's begin. A Death Note is a book of a god of death, a Shinigami, or a Grim Reaper, whichever one you're most familiar with. This notebook is used to take the life of mortals. One day it is dropped in the hands of Light Yagami, a brilliant boy who soon starts finding out the rules and secrets of this notebook. Before long, he begins to use it to kill the scum of the earth. Criminals everywhere are killed relentlessly. But what happens when you have the power over life and death? That is the curse and the gift of the Death Note. A Death Note is an object that brings death to those around it. Its single task is to kill. It's used by a god of death. Can't make it any clearer. An artifact of death like the Death Note is interesting in its scope. While it does have the power to kill anyone on Earth, it does have set rules. Having these rules added a bit of complexity to the series, especially in the way these rules were abused or how protagonists overcame these stipulations. They made the story fascinating. While deep inside I don't think I'm a murderer, watching the protagonists use a Death Note to manipulate and strategize with these rules and limitations almost has the viewer wondering how they would use their very own Death Note. So creating an object of death and destruction with rules and guidelines, it creates a sort of realism. There is a give and take, it's an equivalent exchange. It allows the viewer to put themselves in the story. What would you do with a lot of money? That's vague. What's a lot of money? But if I were to ask you what would you do with $1 million, that allows you to better conceptualize and come up with a better and more specific answer. Rules help you conceptualize. The Death Note and objects like it can be written where it simply kills all those involved, or downplay where the object itself doesn't bring death, but the fight over or the search for said item dooms its possessors. Artifacts of death can add drama or be a great way to pass on objects when the item has a mind of its own. It simply kills its current user to find a better one. Or artifacts of death can either be a simple object or better yet, an item with a mind of its own. Think of the One Ring of Power in The Lord of the Rings. It constantly wants to go back to its owner and would do anything to tempt and find its way back to its dark lord. Another way that this type of narrative device can be used is inverted. Instead of the artifact bringing death, have it bring life or mortality. And the funny thing is, when there are stories with people searching to expand and improve their lives, usually they end up being the antagonists. And just like the Death Note, the battle to control life and death brings out the demons in us and leaves a wake of bodies behind us. Here's another way that items of death are used in stories. One way is to subvert the artifact. Instead of having it kill people, and again have the audience realize that it was just mere coincidence. That we were all led to believe that this item had power, but the real power and the cause of deaths were with those who believed the item had power over them. And in a way, it did. Another way it could be used in stories with objects like the Death Note. It makes you wonder who would create such a tool. Oftentimes, the creator of the tool can be so fascinating. What in their right mind would allow you to create such a powerful and dangerous item? So stories focusing on that could be a great addition to any narrative using an artifact of death. In other stories where there's an artifact like the Death Note, normally there's trickery involved, or some type of deception, either tempting someone to bring upon their own doom or trying to put yourself in a position where you can use that item. One of the reasons why the Death Note is so frightening is that it looks like a simple book, yet it's so dangerous. In the right or wrong hands, actually in both hands, death is assured. Items like the Death Note usually are trinkets or unassuming items that you wouldn't take a second look at. Stories can use this by creating suspense with the audience knowing the true power of a lamp or necklace, but the tension comes from all the protagonists and antagonists working towards that reveal. With items like the Death Note, I think there could be stories with characters either knowing the possible destruction it brings and taking precautions so that they don't end up 6 feet under, or certain writers have it being only used by a certain person, which can create a story where the goal is to get an item from or to someone to hopefully use the way the protagonist needs it. To me, one of the most fascinating things about the Death Note series was not just the characters or the Death Note, but the mixture of both. Seeing how different people were able to outwit and outmaneuver each other using the same tool, a book of death, a book that controls life and death. The obsession that this book created, this artifact of death, can be alluring to viewers as well. So let me ask you, what would you do if you were given your own death note? The power to kill anybody you'd wish with no trace back to you. Would you dare write down a name? Are you already thinking of a name or names to use? Well, maybe it's a good thing that the death note does not exist. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and check out some of my other videos, from a little girl trying to kill what could possibly be God, or how Spider-Man spider sense is one of the best superpowers out there. See ya.